Hey guys, it's Robin, RsIslandCrafts. Welcome to my craft room. This is my WiP It Wednesday video where I show you what I've been working on in the craft room this week. I know some of you really aren't interested in hearing me talking about the different projects that I've been working on this week. And for those of you that do enjoy it, thank you very much for hanging out with me. And for those that are really like to skip this video, go ahead and check back to some of my other videos. I have a lot of tutorials listed for you to check out. And we're going to get back to working on tutorials in August. I have this quilt sitting here because I did manage to quilt it. I used the red thread as I mentioned, and I just kind of meandered around loosely. Just did some free motion quilting on it to hold it all together. I still haven't done the binding yet, but I have chosen my binding. I went into my 2.5-inch scrap bin and I found some scraps of red fabric. Now, even though they're not all the same red, once I disperse them around the quilt, it'll be fine. And then I thought I would just go ahead and finish it off with black, since it has these black sashing strips down each row. And this quilt will be all set to be shipped up to the Carolinas for my daughter's friend. His baby, at least. It felt really good to be quilting on a quilt again. I did miss it, and I love how smooth it just goes through the sewing machine. It's very relaxing. You just kind of get a little bit zen, and free motion has just always been my favorite. It's what I taught myself to start with quilting. I had the hardest time doing straight line quilting, so free motion was what I went with. I did finish a couple dishcloths this week, and I wanted to show you this is the way it looks when I block it, and this is the way it looks when it comes right off the needles. It's all curly, the ends aren't woven in. So putting it through and blocking it does make a big difference because it is cotton. It makes it very easy to block. I did get, someone mentioned that this looked like Halloween colors. I did get a little bit of the green in like I thought at the tip. And then I continued over to this. Now this one has green and blue and gray and red, and then this more of an aqua-y blue. So this is really kind of cool. It's not always fun dealing with all the ends, but I do love having the different colors. So when you can get like a self-striping, I heard one of the brands has a self-striping cotton yarn out now. I think it's like the Sugar and Cream brand or something. I haven't made it up to Walmart yet to check it out, but I really think I'm going to enjoy those because I like the way the colors change. This mottled effect, this grungy looking, is really kind of cool too, but I do like when the colors change like this. So it's going to be fun to go and find some of those and knit with those. Before we get into the other knitting, I do have one more sewn thing that I have. I made this little project bag for a friend. She's going to be giving it away as a gift to her daughter for Christmas. So shh, it's a secret. Don't tell anybody. This is just a standard way I make my project bags. And instead of having a solid fabric here, I went with 2.5-inch squares of all these different types of foods. So we got some pizzas and popcorns. Some French fries. So we got some different fabrics in here that you guys haven't seen yet. And I still have some of the original desserts that you saw in the other bags. And then on the inside, I did have some fun food fabric. This has got corn and peppers. And it looks like cabbage down in there, and squashes and corns and radishes and all that fun stuff. This fabric was sent to me. Oh, thank you so much. A couple of these fabrics. I was looking for popcorn and pizza fabric, and I just could not find it anywhere. But one of you had it in your stash, and you sent me a little bit to go ahead and add to this project bag, and thank you so much. And I thought, even though this isn't desserts, it's a food fabric, as I thought, well, why not? We'll put it on the inside, and it'll work good together. I know purple may not be the perfect color to go with this, but purple is her favorite color, so I went with that. I could have used pink, her other favorite color, but I had just enough of this purple left, and I kind of like the purple, so I thought it was a nice, bright color contrast against this. And it's a fun bag, so I think it works perfectly fine. So now on to the rest of the knitting. I did pull Robbie's sock out, and I put a few rounds onto his. This is where I was last time. So I did a bunch there. I'm still working on the very first sock, and this is his toe. I think I need to usually do like 80 or 85 rounds, and these are 10 round markers. So I got 10, 20, maybe 35 rounds so far. So it's going to be a while before I even get past this first foot. So again, let me move this little marker so that I don't forget, and I just keep knitting like a mad woman. This has been a good project to work on when it's getting a little bit later at night and I can't quite always keep my eyes open and concentrate enough to not do anything crazy on other projects. So since this is easy, it just goes knit, 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 and it's for Robbie, so if I make a little mistake, I'm not too worried about it. Mostly it'll be just that a lot of times when I'm sleeping, so I'll be knitting like this, right? They have all your yarn on here, so I'll be knitting. When I fall asleep, I tend to spaz like this, and for whatever reason, all these stitches tend to fall off. So these needles work pretty good, so, and they tend to stay on pretty good, and when you pull them out, because it's knit at such a tight gauge, that all these stitches will just stick straight up and they'll wait for me to pick them back up. So no worries if I fall asleep while knitting these. I pulled the newsprint cowl out and worked on it just a little bit last night, and when I say a little bit, I mean I put one row on it. But I told you on WiP It Wednesday I'm going to show you whatever I work on, even if it's just a small amount. This one is a small amount. So I almost, when I get back to here, I'll have put one whole entire round on it. But I thought that was okay. I did that last night. It did actually feel good since whenever I take a break from a project, if even just for a few days or a week, when I come back to it, I always feel more energized and I want to work on it more. So when you get bored with a project, sometimes it's good to set it aside and pull up something new. Now, for those of you that are a monotonous knitter or quilter, and you only work on one project from start to finish, I don't know, I can't do that. I tried that in the beginning, but then there's times like this where I might get bored with it and then I want something else. So I do tend to have more than one thing on the needles at a time. Now, technically speaking, I have more than one quilt going at a time, but I usually only have one quilt top going at a time. And then when I get that top done, I had so much fun piecing it that I set it aside and I go ahead and go to the next top. Eventually they all get quilted. When someone needs something, or I need a quilt for someone, if I already have the top done, then it's pretty good. I can just pull it out and finish it off for them, and it takes less time. Now my little Snoopy bag here. Snoopy is corduroy. I believe I've shown this one before. I used to wear corduroy pants all the time in middle school. No, correct that. All the time in elementary school. It was a thing back then. So this is a new cast on, as I mentioned. It's a shawl, and it was raining one day. We've had several dry days in a row, but we had a few days last week when it was raining a lot. So I thought it'd be fun to put on the summer rain shawl because it has raindrops on it in its design. And so I thought I'd cast this one on. This is a black and white picture, but can you see the little raindrops there? Now what's different with this shawl than normally you start up at the neck and you knit your way down, and you'll increase your rows as you're going, your stitch count, so it gets bigger and bigger so you can wrap around in it. This shawl, to get these nice teardrop looks, the raindrops, you start at the bottom. So you cast on your highest number of stitches and then you decrease until you get to about half the number of stitches. So let me show you the yarn I'm working with. Okay, so I'm using this beautiful green yarn. It's a merino linen blend, and it's from Milo. And in here you'll find the information of, this is the location and the artisan. It's from the World Free Trade Organization, so that's pretty cool. So this is going to be making a nice, it's going to be a warm, yet it's going to still be a light shawl. It is 65% merino and 35% linen. And you knit this on either a 4 or a 6, a size 4 or size 6 needle. I'm actually using a 5, which is what the pattern called for. And I thought in between the 4 and 6, let's just split the difference and knit it with a 5. And this is what it looks like so far. Not a lot. It took me one night. I cast on one night. Then as I knit across the first row, the numbers didn't quite work out. So I had to take it off and recast on the 435 stitches and do that over again. And then there's when you're getting things from Ravelry, and this is from a magazine, but it's also listed on Ravelry, I didn't catch that there was an errata, which is where they go through and they give you any corrections to the pattern. And it's usually on the very first page of the pattern where you either purchase it or it gives you all the information on what size yarn to use and needles and stuff. So I went back and I found that, and the stitch count was a little bit wrong to start with, so I changed it all up. Now I've just finished with a little bit of ribbing There's a very narrow band of ribbing down here. It's only about 3 or 4 rows. So when I pick this back up later, I will be getting ready to start into all the fun little patterns and the stitches. I'm going to get right into these little raindrop, teardrop areas, and it's going to give a lot of interest to the shawl, not only for the person who's wearing it, but for the person who's knitting it. Now that's all that I've worked on this week, but I did want to show you a couple cards that came in the mail recently. You're a hoot. I've always been intrigued by card making, but I thought it's not a project. It's fine for me to do every now and then to make a card occasionally, but to sit down and have all these little supplies and have more stuff into the craft room and more supplies to have to organize and store, and then actually sit down and take the time that it takes to sit still to make these cards, even though it probably doesn't take too much per card, you're going to usually make a bunch to keep stored for whenever you're ready to send person card, you already have it already made and stored. So this is a fun little owl card. And as you can see, a lot of times they just stack different ones together the same. They stack the same, well, these are all 3 different pieces, but you stack multiple of them together and you put the little foamy bits to keep it risen up so it's a nice 3D card. So that's really fun. And I received this fun card. Now this is kind of like when I was talking before about making handmade cards and bring it into my world. While this is really fun, this really wasn't going to work for me because of all the extra tools, you know, your little glue and your tape things and stuff like that. But for this, I can just buy the cardstock and then I can add fun things on it like this person did. I have never thought about the simplicity of this. Now, I always think big, blown out, fancy, lots of stuff. Maybe not fancy, but lots of details. But this is a very fun card. It is just Garfield with some tulle netting on top and stitched down. And it's just stitched right through the card. So I thought that was really fun. This is more my style. This is fun to receive. This is fun to make. We all have our thing. And I love that there's card makers out there. Some days I like to just go onto Pinterest or Etsy and just look at the different cards that people are making. They make those different ones where they're like 3D and they pop out and expand and explode and everything. They're very creative. I don't feel that I have that type of creativity, but when it comes to more of the fiber arts and the fabrics and stuff, now this is more along my style. So what do you guys do? Do you make cards at all? Are you a paper card maker? Or do you think you're more like this, where you can add small bits of fabric and quilts and things like that to a card? Go ahead and leave a comment down below and let me know. That's it for me this week. I feel really pretty good about some of the progress that I've made in the little bit of time that I had to actually sit down to do anything. I know everyone's really busy this summer. Have you guys had any time to sit down and just do a little crafting? Here in my area, school is starting up in probably a week and a half, 2 weeks. So everyone's really going crazy getting all their school shopping done. Just before school starts, like the weekend before, they have a tax-free holiday here in Lee County, Florida. And you can buy anything that your child could need for school within certain reason. And you don't have to pay any sales tax on it. So a lot of the parents wait till that weekend, and then that's when they go out shopping. So that's that one weekend that I am not going anywhere near the stores because they are packed, and there's usually kids running around everywhere at the same time. Alright guys, I'll see you next week. Bye!